Welcome to the podcast series showcasing the winners of the 2024 Dyslexia Canada Educational Excellence Awards. We established this award to honor the outstanding contributions of individuals nationwide who work tirelessly to advance core pillars of Dyslexia Canada's mission, ensuring that all Canadian children have access to universal early screening and evidence-based, systematic, explicit foundational reading instruction. Right now, just over half of Canadian children are living in provinces committed to implementing that. In September 2023, the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission released its report titled Equitable Education for Students with Reading Disabilities. It urged the province to make curriculum changes, implement early screening, and establish effective intervention programs. While we await the response from the Saskatchewan government, Saskatoon Public Schools are pioneering evidence-based literacy initiatives. Today, we'll be speaking with Superintendents of Education Nicola Bishop-Yong and Trish Reeve. Congratulations to you and your team.
We're so proud to represent the work of Saskatoon Public Schools. Firstly, we'd love to thank our nominee, Dr. Andrea Fraser, and of course, thank Dyslexia Canada for the honor.
Saskatchewan Public Schools began shifting towards evidence-based reading instruction in recent years. What motivated the decision to go in this direction? The shift in practice was ahead of any provincial requirement to do that, right?
It was, we're very fortunate in Saskatoon Public Schools to be guided by a strategic plan and have the support of a school board that really promotes innovation. And our strategic plan really makes a commitment to academic excellence and evidence-based practice alongside equity and anti-racist and anti-oppressive practices. And so the motivation is really what we all want in our schools and in our provinces to ensure that all students attain grade level reading achievement and to improve our graduation rates. And really that's the heart of our motivation. We'd been expanding prior to 2020, exploring the recommendations of the National Reading Panel, but it was really thereafter that we formalized our plans in a comprehensive literacy plan. And our plan really looked at 4 elements, and we've been carrying those forth on a yearly basis and refining our work as we go. But really we focused on developing and fostering our leaders into literacy leaders and really fostering instructional leadership. So making sure that our school-based leaders and teachers at the school level had the skills and the capacity to carry forward this work. The second part of our plan really focused on providing rigorous professional learning and promoting professional inquiry. We know that in order to enact evidence-based practice, you have to be immersed in the research. And so we have developed over time a system that really allows for our division to be as close as possible to the research and to develop those skills amongst our teachers. The other thing, of course, is to, the third part of our plan was to ensure that we have those supports for evidence-based instruction and intervention, and that those were implemented. And so we're proud of being able to provide our teachers and our schools with look-fors, instructional guides. We designed a literacy block planning document that aligned with our provincial curriculum. And then, of course, you have to resource this work. And so we provided resources, be they decodables and or professional reading to all of our schools, because you need to be able to support effective instruction and intervention if you want to see that shift in practice. And then lastly, we really focused on ensuring that our decision making at all levels, be it the classroom, the school, or the division, was really informed through quality assessment. And so we conducted an assessment audit in our division and moved our division in a way that reflects what we hope is the research and the most current research in literacy. And at the end of the day, we're guided by the mantra that Maya Angelou, would have left for us. And that is, when we know better, we do better. And so we think about that every day and every year. And any degree of success that we've experienced in our division is due to the incredible staff that we're privileged at central office and in our schools to work with.
Now, that can certainly be a bit of a challenging process sometimes, because you're essentially throwing away what people have been working with and have learned over the years, and then all of a sudden adopting something else. Now, in your case, in the 2021-22 school year, Saskatoon Public Schools stopped using FNP benchmark assessments and then adopted universal screening measures. Can you tell us how that changed things?
Yeah, this was a big change for our school division. The Fontes and Pinnell system that many of our neighbors here in Saskatchewan and schools across the nation used was embedded in our work as a division for more than a decade. And we know what it takes to shift teacher practice and the delicacy with which you need to, approach that kind of change. And we knew moving to the new assessment model, which included an oral reading fluency measure from Acadians reading, and taking a look at some of the supporting diagnostics like our alphabet, our phonics, our phonological awareness, we knew that that would require a significant amount of support and care, both of those in equal measure. We spent a good portion of the year prior to implementing Acadians to work with all of our stakeholders. And that included even the Ministry of Education here in our province, our school board, making sure our trustees were on side. We worked diligently with our school leaders and our teachers, all in advance of that change. And, Trish and I are absolutely indebted to a small but mighty team we have here in the division. Our staff development team of coordinators and consultants really helped to build that capacity. And then it was, we're so proud of the work that the leaders and the teachers picked up and led this work from our classrooms and our school levels.
Well, that's great. Now, what successes have you seen as a result?
Yeah, we are so excited to be in our second year administering the oral reading measures from Acadians from grades 1 to 8. And we're involved in a pilot for Acadians French immersion assessments, what Acadians calls IDEPEL. And we currently administer those screeners at minimum twice a year, and in some cases, 3 times a year, depending on student benchmarking. And this is an incredible shift, a very, very large shift away from our previous practice to have all teachers in grades 1 to 8 engaged in this work. We also, at the same time introducing ORF measures, really took a look at the efficiency and the effectiveness of how we were drilling down into our literacy learners and identifying their specific skills and or any areas that we needed to attend to in their reading foundational skills. And so we took a look at our diagnostics and made sure that they aligned with our practice. And we are delighted to say that, the teachers are now using literacy assessments that truly and really do inform their instruction. We see teachers excitedly delivering rigorous literacy blocks that are more intentional. Our teachers provide structured and explicit literacy instruction, quite frankly, that wasn't possible under our previous assessment and instructional model. And so we know and feel really confident and are seeing it in our classrooms that our new assessment and instructional model really supports teachers in differentiating their instruction and responding to student need. And we're really living that out in our data. Our kindergarten to grade 1, we see steady improvement in early learning indicators like alphabet, phonics, and phonological awareness. And in our middle years, our reading fluency outcomes continue to grow.
Wow, that must be exciting to see.
It is.
Trish, what steps do you think are necessary to enhance the screening process, particularly when it comes to kindergarten students?
Well, first we look at the students and their identified strengths and needs through the universal screeners. And then once we know that, the individual needs are determined through those diagnostic assessments that we use. And we work with our school teams to plan targeted instruction to really implement and create those intervention plans. And then the progress monitoring is implemented to determine the successes and the areas that we want to continue to work on. And that progress monitoring is through our Acadians assessments. And then changes are made to target instruction when we know that we need to see growth or if we need to make changes, and or if the plan continues to stay in place and we continue with that intervention plan. And then, we're working with our teachers and our resource teachers to continually monitor progress to ensure that all students are receiving the correct targeted instruction and intervention. And so that is work that will continue to move into next year as well as we continue to hone our practice there. In Saskatoon Public Schools, we feel we're ahead of this as we have been collecting data for a number of years. But in conjunction with collecting that alphabet data, we have added additional assessments and screeners to our practice. The Ministry of Education requires all kindergarten students to be assessed with the early years evaluation, which is a screener that is in 6 domains. So we have been collecting that data for quite some time now, both in the fall and for students who are below benchmark in the spring. And so that looks at domains such as awareness of a self and environment, social skills, cognitive skills, language and communication, fine motor and gross motor skills. So, we have that assessment as to guide our practice. And then in 21-22, we created alphabet benchmarks. Even though our kindergarten curriculum is very exploratory and play-based, there isn't an expectation in the ministry kindergarten curriculum that all students leaving kindergarten will know all of their alphabet names and sounds. But in Saskatoon Public, we felt that that was really important, that we had that benchmark in place. And so the assessment that we do 3 times a year, all our teachers do with their students, really guides our practice. And in addition to that, we also developed a social emotional rubric based on kindergarten outcomes in the social emotional domain. So that again gives us some information 3 times a year where teachers are then, using instructional practices to support the well-being of students in kindergarten.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the intervention structure that's in place to make sure that students are progressing as readers?
Sure, absolutely. We're using a multi-tiered system of support. So we define what universal or tier 1 support looks like, additional support that would be in a tier 2 MTSS model, and then what the tier 3 or intensified support would look like and how it should be implemented in our schools. And so this MTSS model, can be applied in many areas, not just academic, but behavior and social emotional learning as well. And we're working with our resource teachers to really understand that this is a student first and needs-based approach. And so as Nicola mentioned, the comprehensive literacy plan guides that work. Our progress monitoring and our assessment practices with our screeners guides that work. So we feel like we're in a really good place moving forward with some of the changes that we've made in most recent years.
And you appear to have found a way that you can track it to verify that you're seeing progress.
Yes, absolutely.
Nicola, what other initiatives are underway right now in your school division to continue to improve the literacy levels of all students?
These are exciting times in Saskatoon Public Schools because it really does, the old adage, it takes a village, really does live out in our division. Alongside our literacy work, it really is truly important and a celebration for us to note that our division places value and importance on equity and anti-racist and anti-oppressive practices. And so we've been really diligent to embed that work alongside our literacy plans. We're really fortunate to have a consultant who guides this work, and she's developed an equity reflection guide for the division, much inspired by researchers like Elena Aguilar and the Equity Literacy Institute. And in our reflection guide of the 10 areas that we reflect on daily, we've really looked this year in particular and previous years at how we can disrupt inequity wherever it exists. And we've placed special value and importance on the impact of deficit thinking and the value and the impact of rigorous and high expectations for all of our students, but in particular our Indigenous students, ensuring that we have student success for all. And this work really does promote equitable opportunities for all of our learners, and we're really excited about the initiatives that we've been working with. But that's not all that we do here in Saskatoon Public Schools. We're so very fortunate to have an organization that works alongside our school division called the Saskatoon Public Schools Foundation. And the foundation is a remarkable partner who has organized an incredible monetary initiative called Early Learning Equals Start. And this campaign has seen just an amazing amount of support by way of dollars into our division. And we're able to do 3 programs as a result of the $20 million campaign that our foundation brings in addition to government funding to our work. And so we've been able to provide full day, everyday kindergarten programming. In Saskatchewan, our government funded kindergarten programming, a regular program, is a half day program. But with the support of our foundation, we've been able to extend that kindergarten program in 29 of our schools and offer a full day experience for students who would benefit from additional time in developing those kindergarten readiness skills. And the foundation also supports a really, really strong, decade old now, literacy tutoring program called Page Turners. And Page Turners is a remarkable, small but mighty program growing every year. It hires retired teachers to provide one-to-one literacy instruction, and it's about 62 programs now. It's grown from 6 programs to 62, and we offer programming 3 times a year, and every year we're able to impact about 500 students. Typically, those students are in grades 2 and 3 who are below benchmark reading expectations, and this one-on-one literacy tutor intervention allows them to reach and attain those grade level expectation. And that's not it. The foundation gives and keeps giving. We have a summer camp program called Camp Brainpower, and we offer a week-long literacy experience that involves both physical literacy and literacy outcomes and outdoor learning. And we offer that in 22 locations for 1 week in August, and it involves about 500 of our Saskatoon Public Schools students. So without the support, we have both innovation within our division and with partners that we work with.
That's a private foundation, though, right? That's not government money.
This is outside of any government funding. This is a private organization that supports our school division.
Now, you did talk about Indigenous children a little bit earlier on, and you mentioned the anti-racism initiatives and that type of thing that you're involved in. Do you feel that Indigenous students are benefiting more from this than they have from other reading programs in the past?
I think it would be absolutely accurate to say that with the work we have focused on anti-racist and anti-oppressive practices and our literacy work, we need both of those strategies to ensure Indigenous student success. And so I think that we're very fortunate to have had a strategic plan and the supports in place to ensure that our Indigenous students are experiencing success, not just in literacy, but across all, academic domains. We're very grateful to have the support of a external researcher from the University of Saskatchewan who works with our consultant here in the division. And Dr. Carmen Gillies works to provide support to the division to make sure that in all areas of our division, be it our literacy plans, our assessment plans, our instructional plans, that we really are making sure that it is equity driven and that we are thinking about Indigenous student success. So I know that as we develop this work and move forward, I think we can say with confidence that we're having really strong learning outcomes for our Indigenous students in literacy and in graduation.
One of your fellow winners, who is working in Nunavik, said that her work with Indigenous children is part of her journey to give back after the release of the Truth and Reconciliation Report. Did that influence you?
We are so fortunate to have had such a long-standing history in the division on shining a light on anti-racist and anti-oppressive practices and on Indigenous student success. We are one of the jurisdictions in our province that have our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis-Michif education units. That's one of the oldest in our province. And so we've benefited from the good guidance of our community and researchers for a number of years. And now as we move forward and this work is embedded in our strategic plan, it absolutely is a way for myself as an ally and the division to really be a leader in this area. Prior to working with Dr. Carmen Gillies, we worked with other researchers at the university. And so this is just work that we are proud of, but it is work that has such a moral component that we know that we need to continue to shine a light on this area.
Trish, What did you think of the report from the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission in September 2023 that suggested curriculum changes, early screening, and effective intervention programs for students with dyslexia and reading disabilities?
We had reviewed the Ontario Right to Read before the Saskatchewan report was released, and we used that report to inform our plans, whether it be our comprehensive literacy plan. We also have developed Saskatoon Public Schools Guide to Evidence-Based Intervention Plan, pre-K to grade 8. So that information really helped us determine our steps in writing some of our processes and guidelines. We do have plans for the Right to Read that was just released. Part of that is to initiate discussions with our special education and student services departments to review current practices and procedures. We want to establish consistency regarding reading disabilities, including assessments, the terminology we're using, definitions, recommendations, and some of the resources that are pulled from that. We also want to take that report and share that with our key stakeholders. So making sure that our senior leaders, our school-based leaders, resource teachers, central office leaders really understand the implications, the recommendations, and the information from that. And then again, wanting to identify all the opportunities within the comprehensive literacy plan and the evidence-based intervention plan that we plan to roll out in the fall to really look at those recommendations and ensure those are happening within our schools. We were happy to see, that we're already using screeners to determine instructional practices. Nicola and I have had a few meetings with different folks, talks about what the changes need to be to curriculum. So we've met with some of our College of Education friends at the University of Saskatchewan to review our instructional literacy practices and how Saskatoon Public is doing things a little bit differently than they have in the past. We've also met with the Deputy Minister to discuss the research around the science of reading, along with what the curriculum is saying about some of the practices like the 3Qing system, that type of thing. So I think we're in a good place to move forward and really anticipating, opportunities to bring that report to light as it will continue to inform our practice at Saskatoon Public.
Do you think that other school divisions are watching what you're doing right now?
Oh, I think they are, and I know Nicola has met with a number of divisions in the past to learn more about the work we're doing. So I'll turn that over to her.
Sure. We know and have been sitting with a number of our neighbors and counterparts in the division to learn from their expertise and to share what we have learned along the way. There's much to be learned when you sit with educational partners across the table. And so we know in Saskatoon Public and in the province, we were one of the first jurisdictions to part ways with the previous assessment model and to look into the research and look particularly at using an oral reading fluency in a universal screener. That was new and certainly new for our neighbors and partners. And there has been some interest and we learn from them and they learn from us. And so we know that as we explore assessment in this province, we know that we've got a strong basis for collaboration and for continued learning in the future.
So do you have any advice for superintendents like yourself that have just started implementing evidence-based reading instruction and universal screening?
Well, first and foremost, I think Trish and I would offer any advice we give just with a heavy dose of humbleness. We are, and I hope to speak on behalf of both of us when I say that we are not experts in the field of literacy, but we have certainly learned along the way in the past few years about what it has taken to shift a division of our size. And so having a compelling vision that all students can read and making sure that you promote and support teachers in their confidence to have the skills to support student need, that is a piece of advice. We regularly describe that vision for our staff and for our stakeholders. I think something else that we would probably say to our superintendent colleagues is be bold, dream big. We are regularly talk around our tables here at central office with excitement about the research. And then we dream, and we're just not satisfied with reading Joan Sedita's work on writing. We want her to join us. We're not satisfied with just reading Dr. Jamie Peevler's work around small group instruction and assessment systems. We meet with her regularly and bring the research directly to our teachers. So I think we would say to our superintendent colleagues, dream big. We embrace lifelong learning. We, around our tables and in conversations with our school leaders, regularly challenge our bias. We challenge any previously, held instructional practices, and we cultivate that spirit of inquiry and collaboration that allows us to move the work forward and not to, stay too comfortable in one place too long without really examining our practice. But being able to, establish that spirit of inquiry really rests on investing in relationships. And we have, alongside all of our stakeholders, we really do invest in those relationships.
I would just close with that and say that, having high expectations for all. We believe in rigorous instruction assessment, evidence-based instructional practices that ensure that we're seeing a year's growth with all of our students from where they're at. And so having those high expectations at the forefront, I think is critical in all the work that we lead. And I know that our colleagues across the province want the same for their students and their teachers as well.
You both sound very passionate about this, and it certainly sounds like you've seen some real success. So I imagine that helps to keep you very motivated as you continue your effort to help all students learn the very important skill of reading. So thanks very much for joining us on the podcast. And hey, congratulations again on winning the award.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the series showcasing the winners of the 2024 Dyslexia Canada Educational Excellence Awards. To learn more about this year's winners, visit dyslexiacanada.org, where you can read a blog about each of them. Now stay tuned for our next episode.